Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It is Wednesday, August 20th, and this is our daily recap video for Roundhill weekly paying funds. The first three are index-related covered call strategies. They sell 0DTE calls, QDTE for the NASDAQ 100, XDTE for the S&P 500, and RDTE for the Russell 2000. The last one is YBTC. It's a Bitcoin covered call strategy fund, not 0DTE, but we join it in with these other ones because it's a weekly payer. Reminder, I'm on X at ETF_Inspector1, especially related to these videos. I post things like the 0DTE trades, and if you don't know what that is, that's just 0 days till expiration. So on August 20th, they are selling calls that expire on August 20th. So that's 0 days till expiration. So I post those in the morning in case you'd like to trade along or just keep track of your investments. And also things related to this would be like Roundhill announcing the distributions for these three funds. So we'll talk about them in the video as well. We'll start off with QDTE. They sold calls, 365 of them, collecting $22.13 per share premium with a strike price of $23,380 on the NDX. NDX closed at $23,249.57, so that's well below the strike price, meaning it costs $0 to close out, and it's a full profit of $807,000. With today being Declaration Day, 23.925 cents per share was announced. That's approximately 35% annual yield on the fund based on this closing price today, $34.89. If you watched my guesstimate last week, it was $23.75. So I was off by less than 1%. Not bad, but I won't celebrate too much because I've got a bigger miss further back. So we'll talk about that too. Almost $857 million assets under management. No change in shares yesterday, 24,440,000. The NAV before today's activity was 35.06. Obviously, we dropped about 0.5%. And we'll just take a look. We're going to use these numbers because sometimes Excel takes a little while on their automatic update for fund prices. So the NDX was down 0.58% and QDTE outperformed it, going down 0.46%. Next up, XDTE. They sold 651 calls at 6,420 on the SPX, collecting $328 per share premium. SPX closed at 63.9578, well below that 64.20. So again, it cost nothing to close it out, and full profit of $213,000. Declaration Day for them as well. They announced 25.3980 cents. That's a roughly 30% annual yield. My guesstimate from Friday was 25. I should have gone with the average. Boy, then I'd have been real close. Real close. As it was, I missed it by 1.5%. Not too bad, but again, I can't celebrate because I got a bigger miss coming on the back end. $415 million in assets under management. No change in shares. Outstanding shares 9.4 million. Quick explanation on these 0DTE funds. They buy deep in the money calls. That's what's highlighted here in purple. Consider them a synthetic. That's basically like owning shares. So that's how they are selling the quantity of calls that they're selling. Okay, RDTE, last of the three, sold calls, 651 of them at $22.85 on the Russell 2000, collecting $2.29 per share premium. The Russell 2000 closed at $22.6935, below that $22.85. So once again, $0 to cash settle it. Full profit of $149,000. All three of these funds are 3 for 3 on the trading week, keeping everything that they collected in premium from selling at the beginning of each day. This is the reason why I don't get to celebrate the other two wins, because of how much I missed this one by. So they announced a distribution of 25.4822 cents per share. That's just under a 40% annual yield. My guess was 31 cents. So I missed by a lot, 21.6%. Just felt like they were going to try to keep that going, especially since they started a little bit of a war with Yield Max. I figured they were going to try and keep on paying out higher than them. But either way, still not bad. Not bad. Who's complaining about 40% annual yield? Now, obviously, on all these high yield, high income funds, you need to not just look at the annual yield of what they're paying out, but look at total return, right? Because all you hear about people talking about NAV erosion, or the NAV dropping, or the price dropping. So you got to take into account, all right, so I've collected, we're just throwing generic numbers out there, I've collected $5 in distributions throughout the year, but my shares have dropped by $4. Well, then you're up $1 per share overall. Obviously, that was just an example. It wasn't specifically what's happening here. There was a change here. People buying into the fund yesterday, 60,000 new shares, bringing it up to 4,460,000. That's odd for the closing price to end right at the NAV if it was a down day. But roughly $148 million in assets under management. I expect that in the next day or two, we will see an increase in one of these positions from the money that came in from those new purchases, and then that'll be able to put more to work. All right, and finally, we go to YBTC. Different fund altogether. They don't do a deep in the money call as their synthetic. They do a more of a standard synthetic where they sell calls. They buy calls and they sell puts at the same price, and that mimics buying the shares at that price. That mimics having the shares, and then they sell calls. They can sell the same quantity, however many contracts of that they have. So another thing, they don't give us access to their daily trading information. All we can do is download their holdings, so we can see what they sold. They sold calls on CBTX at 28.1779, and they sold calls on IBIT at 67. Now that actually is not making sense. We're gonna have to take a quick detour. Obviously, it's not an August 15th call. So here you get to see a little bit of the behind the scenes editing. Caught my own mistake. So it's actually an August 22nd, 67.50. We have to adjust that as well. There we go. Now all's right in the world. All right, doesn't change the numbers. It just changed the percentage, how far out. I had already pulled all of this information. I just forgot to pull the new trade. But anyway, so we don't get to see their trades, but we can just pick up from the holdings what they sold. And what we noticed last week is they just wait till Friday to roll them. So as for right now, both of their calls are 4.5% and 4% out of the money. We also can see this plus 46. So from yesterday, there was an increase. So they put more money to work at CBTX. It went from 710 contracts to 756. And again, down here, selling 756 contracts. So they sold 46 more to go along with what they already had sold. There's $286 million in assets under management within the fund, roughly 5.8 million outstanding shares. Today was a good day for these. Everything was up. The fund YBTC was not able to completely keep up with the underlyings, right? CBTX up over 1%, IBIT up 1.1%, YBTC only up 0.76%. Not sure why. Actually, I am sure why. So while their synthetics would go up in value along with those, so that helps. The cost to close out their sold calls or their short calls would increase as well, and that's basically considered negative money. So that's the reason it didn't. But since they're both still out of the money, they will continue to decrease in value and be cheaper to close out at the end of the week, so long as the stocks don't run up past these strike prices. So now basically on flat days or down days, YBTC will outperform the underlyings because their sold calls will continue to become less expensive to close out. Hopefully that all makes sense. Yesterday was actually declaration day for YBTC. So on yesterday's video, we talked about the 48.4327 cents per share. Today was X day, and tomorrow will be payday. Last thing on here, the synthetics, after obviously yesterday was a horrible day for crypto related things, caused their synthetics to drop pretty deep into the negative, meaning it's going to cost $7.1 and $1.9 million to close these out. Now today was an up day, so these will increase. Tomorrow these will go closer to zero. They won't increase as in further into the negative. They will become more valuable, so they'll get closer to zero. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, I'm talking too long, so I'm going to go ahead and end it now and check back tomorrow for trade information on X, and then tomorrow night for the daily recap. Thanks for watching.